The ship was old and tired, just like the man who flew it. Park sat alone in the pilot's seat, watching the endless black of space through his dirty window. His vessel, made strange noises as it moved through the debris field. Every few minutes, something would hit the hull with a soft thump. Rocks, metal pieces, the garbage of dead ships and forgotten stations. This was the outer rim. No laws here, no help if something went wrong, just silence and the cold light of distant stars. Was 29 years old, but he felt much older. His hands were rough from years of work. His face carried small scars from accidents and fights. He had been a mechanic once, fixing cargo ships at a busy station. That felt like another life now. These days, he survived by finding valuable things in the wreckage of space and selling them to whoever would pay. It was lonely work, dangerous work, but preferred it to being around people. The scanner on his console made a sudden sound, leaned forward and looked at the screen. There was something out there, a signal, weak but clear. A distress call. His first thought was to ignore it. Distress calls in the outer rim were often traps. Pirates liked to play hurt and then attack when someone came to help. He had seen it happen before. He had lost friends to such tricks. But something about this signal was different. The pattern was strange. The code was not human. Typed commands into his console and waited. The computer took a moment to identify the signal. When the answer came, felt his stomach turn cold. The signal was. Everyone in the galaxy knew about They were an ancient species, powerful beyond measure. Their empire covered hundreds of worlds. Their technology was far better than anything humans had ever made. They lived for thousands of years, and they looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. Small, simple, not worth their attention. Had never met in person. Few humans had. They did not welcome visitors to their space. They did not make friends with other species. They simply existed, proud and cold, untouchable in their golden ships. So what was a vessel doing out here, in the middle of nowhere, sending a distress call? Told himself to fly away. This was not his problem. If a ship was in trouble, other would come to help. They did not need a human scavenger with a broken-down ship. But the signal kept calling, weak, desperate. Closed his eyes and thought of his sister. Had died in a mining accident 3 years ago. No one had come to help her. No one had answered her calls. She had died alone in the dark, waiting for rescue that never came. He opened his eyes and changed the course. It took an hour to find the wreckage. When saw it, his breath caught in his throat. The ship was beautiful, even destroyed. It was long and silver, shaped like a blade. Designs were always elegant, always perfect. But this one had been torn apart. Huge holes covered its body. Burn marks showed where weapons had hit. The entire back section was missing, ripped away by some terrible force. This was not an accident. This was an attack. Brought the close and used his scanner to check for life signs. The machine searched for a long time. Then it found something. One signal, faint but real. Someone was still alive inside that broken ship. Put on his suit and crossed the gap between the two vessels. The inside of the ship was dark and cold. Emergency lights gave a weak red glow. Moved carefully, stepping over broken metal and shattered glass. He found bodies, guards in silver armor, all dead. Their faces were still, their violet eyes empty. Whatever had happened here, it had been fast and violent. The life sign led deeper into the ship. He climbed through a collapsed doorway and entered what looked like a private room. Rich fabrics covered the walls. Strange art hung in broken frames. This was not a normal ship. This was something special, something royal. And there, under a pile of fallen metal, he found her. She was young, at least by standards. Her skin was silver like moonlight, smooth and beautiful. Her hair was white and long, spread around her like water. Her eyes, when they opened, were the color of violet flowers. She was hurt. A piece of metal had trapped her legs. Blood, pale blue in color, stained her torn dress. When she saw, fear filled her face. She tried to move away but could not. She was too weak, too trapped. Held up his hand slowly. "I am not going to hurt you," he said. He spoke in common tongue, the simple language that most species in the galaxy understood. "I heard your signal. I came to help." The girl stared at him. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She was scared, maybe dying, had seen that look before in wounded animals. "Human," she whispered. Her voice was soft and musical, even filled with pain. "You are human." "Yes." Knelt down beside her and looked at the metal trapping her legs. It was heavy, but he thought he could move it. "I am going to get you out. It might hurt. I am sorry." He did not wait for permission. He grabbed the metal beam and pulled with all his strength. His muscles burned. His back screamed in protest. But slowly the beam moved. The girl cried out in pain, but she did not tell him to stop. With one final effort, threw the beam aside. The girl was free. He looked at her wounds. They were bad but not deadly if he acted fast. He could treat her on the... He had basic medical supplies. It would not be perfect, but it might be enough. Reached down and carefully lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected. Her body was warm against his chest. "Why?" she asked as he carried her toward the exit. Her violet eyes searched his face, looking for something she could understand. "We are nothing to your kind. Your people hate us. Why would you help me?" Thought about the question as he walked. He thought about all the reasons to leave her here. They had never helped humans. They had watched human colonies burn and done nothing. They thought humans were beneath them, like dirt under their feet. But when looked at this girl, he did not see her. He saw someone young and scared and hurt. He saw someone who might die alone in the dark if he walked away. He had walked away from too many things in his life already. "Because you are alive," he said simply, "and I can help. That is enough reason for me." The girl said nothing more, but as carried her across the gap between the ships, she held onto him a little. And when they were safe inside when the warmth of the old ship surrounded them both, she looked at him with something new in her violet eyes. Not fear anymore. Something like wonder. The medical bay of there was small and messy. Old bandages sat in a pile in one corner. The walls were stained with rust. The single bed had been used so many times that the fabric was thin and worn. It was not a place for royalty, but it was all had. He worked on the girl for 3 hours. Her wounds were strange to him. Bodies were different from human bodies in many ways. Their blood was blue. Their bones were lighter but stronger. Their skin healed faster, but only if treated correctly. Did his best with what he knew. He cleaned her cuts. He wrapped her injured leg. He gave her water mixed with nutrients, hoping her body could use them. The whole time she watched him with those violet eyes, saying nothing. When he finished, sat back and wiped the sweat from his face. "I have done what I can," he said. "I am not a doctor, but I think you will live." The girl looked down at her bandaged body. Her silver hands touched the rough fabric wrapped around her leg. Knew it was nothing compared to what she was used to. Medicine could heal wounds in minutes. Their hospitals were clean and bright and filled with machines that could fix almost anything. But out here, in the outer rim, rough bandages and hope were all they had. "Thank you," she said quietly. Her voice was still weak but clearer than before. "I did not expect kindness from a human." "Most humans would not expect to find it in the outer rim," replied. He leaned against the wall and crossed his arms. "What happened to your ship? Who attacked you?" The girl was silent for a long moment. Her eyes moved to the small window, looking out at the stars. When she spoke again, her voice carried deep sadness. "My name is Vila," she said. "I am the youngest daughter of Queen Myra, ruler of the Empire." Felt his heart stop. He stood very still, afraid to move. A princess. He had rescued a princess. Not just any princess, but the daughter of the most powerful being in this part of the galaxy. 6 days ago, Vila continued, I was traveling to visit my sister on a distant world. My guards were with me. We thought we were safe. She paused and pain crossed her face. Then ships came. They attacked without warning. They killed everyone. Pirates? Asked, though he already knew the answer was no. Pirates did not have weapons strong enough to destroy a royal ship. No, Vila shook her head slowly. The ships that attacked us, our own people tried to kill me. The words hung in the air like poison. Did not know much about politics. He did not care about the games that powerful people played with each other's lives, but he understood betrayal. He understood being hurt by those who should protect you. Do you know why? He asked. No, Vila's hands closed into fists on the bed. I do not understand. I am not important. I am the youngest daughter, the one nobody notices. I have no power. I have no enemies. Why would anyone want me dead? Thought about this. In his experience, there were many reasons to kill someone. Money, revenge, fear, but killing a princess was different. That was not a simple crime. That was politics. That was a message meant for someone else. Your mother, he said slowly. The queen, someone wants to hurt her through you. Vila's violet eyes widened. She had not thought of this. For all her years of life, she was still young in some ways, still innocent to the darkness that lived in the hearts of powerful people. I need to go home, she said. Her voice was stronger now, filled with new purpose. I need to tell my mother what happened. She must know that there are traitors among us. Walked to the window and looked out at the stars. There was far away, very far. The journey would take them through dangerous space, past stations full of criminals and worlds controlled by people who hated both humans and at the end of that journey, what waited for him? They did not welcome humans. If he flew his ship into their space, they might destroy him without asking questions. They might throw him in prison just for existing. They might do much worse. But when he turned and looked at Vila, he saw a young woman who had lost everything in one terrible night. Her guards were dead. Her trust was broken. She was alone in the universe with no one but a stranger she should not trust. Knew what that felt like. The journey will be long, he said, and dangerous. I cannot promise we will make it. Hope appeared on Vila's face like sunrise after a dark night. You will help me. You will take me home. I will try. Vila tried to stand but was too weak. She fell back on the bed, frustrated with her own body. I have nothing to give you, she said. My wealth, my position, they mean nothing out here. I cannot pay you for this. Walked to the door of the medical bay. He stopped and looked back at her. I did not ask for payment. Then why? Vila asked again. This question seemed to bother her deeply. In her world, no one did anything without a reason. Every action had a price. Every kindness was a deal waiting to be made. Why would you risk your life for someone you do not know, for someone whose people have never helped yours? Considered the question. He thought about his sister again. He thought about all the cold nights alone in space, with no one to care if he lived or died. He thought about how easy it was to become hard in this universe, to stop caring about anyone except yourself. Because I am still human, he said finally, and humans help each other, even when it is stupid, even when it is dangerous. We help because that is what we are. He left the medical bay and walked to the pilot's seat. Behind him, he heard Vila settle back onto the bed. She did not ask any more questions. Sat down and looked at the console. He typed in the coordinates for the computer calculated the journey and showed him the result. 23 days of travel, 12 dangerous zones, 4 refueling stops in places where people would kill them for their ship. It was madness, pure madness. Started the engine anyway. As the turn toward distant stars, allowed himself one small thought. Maybe this was the wrong choice. Maybe he would die on this journey, far from home, for a girl who should mean nothing to him. But maybe, just maybe, this was the first right thing he had done in years. The stars blurred as the ship jumped into faster travel. Behind them, the wreckage of the transport grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. Somewhere in that debris field, Dead guards floated in the cold darkness. They had failed to protect their princess. They had died never knowing who betrayed them. But Vila was alive, and as long as had breath in his body, he would keep her that way. Not because she was royal. Not because she was. But because she was alone, and he knew how that felt. The flew on through the endless night, carrying its strange passengers toward an uncertain future. And for the first time in 3 years, Park did not feel quite so alone. The days passed slowly on the Vila's wounds healed faster than expected. Within a week, she could walk again, though she still moved carefully. She spent her time exploring the small ship, touching everything with curious silver fingers. There was nothing like the vessels she knew. Ships were clean and perfect, made of smooth metal and soft light. Everything had a purpose. Everything was beautiful. There was the opposite. Wires hung from the ceiling. Rust covered the walls. Strange sounds came from the engine at all hours, like an old man coughing. But Vila found herself loving this ugly little ship. It had character. It had history. Every dent in the hull told a story. Every scratch on the floor was a memory. She watched closely during these days. He fascinated her in ways she did not understand. In society, everything was about power and position. People spoke to each other through careful words, hiding their true meanings. Every smile was a weapon. Every gift was a trap. Vila had grown up in a palace where no one said what they actually meant. Was different. He said what he thought. He did what he said. There was no trick to him, no hidden agenda. When he offered her food, it was simply because she was hungry. When he fixed a tear in her dress, it was simply because it needed fixing. This confused Vila deeply. One evening, they sat together in the small eating area, had made a simple meal from the ship's supplies. It was not good food. The meat was dry. The vegetables were soft, but he divided it equally between 2 plates and gave her the larger portion. "You gave me more," Vila said, looking at the plates. Shrugged, "You are still healing. You need more food." "But this is your ship, your food. By law, you have the right to keep the best for yourself." Laughed softly. It was a warm sound that Vila had come to enjoy hearing. I have no such laws. I have food. You need food, I share. That is how it works." Vila ate in silence, thinking about his words. In her world, sharing meant losing. If you gave something away, you were weaker because of it, but did not seem weaker for sharing. He seemed stronger somehow, more complete. After the meal, taught her a card game. He called it something she could not pronounce, a name from his human language. The rules were simple, but the strategy was deep. They played for hours, using small pieces of metal as betting chips. Vila lost every game, but she did not mind. The playing itself was pleasant, made jokes when she made mistakes. He cheered when she made good moves. There was no pressure, no judgment, just 2 people enjoying time together. "Your kind confuses me," Vila admitted as they played their 5th game. "Everything I learned about humans told me you were dangerous, wild creatures who fight each other constantly, violent and short-tempered." Placed a card on the table. "Some humans are like that, just like some are cruel and cold. Every species has good and bad." "But you," Vila struggled to find the right words, "you are weak. I do not mean this as an insult, it is simply true. Your bodies break easily. You cannot survive in space without machines. You live such short lives, barely 100 years. By standards, you are children who die before they truly grow." Nodded, he did not seem offended. All true. "Yet you help strangers, you share your food, you risk your life for someone you do not know." Vila put down her cards and looked at him directly. "This makes no sense to me. If you are so weak, if your time is so short, why waste it on others?" The question hung in the air, was quiet for a long moment, his dark human eyes looking at something far away. "Maybe that is exactly why," he said finally. "Because our time is short, because we know we will die soon, by your standards at least. We cannot afford to be cold. We cannot afford to wait. If we see someone who needs help, we help them now because we might not have tomorrow. He picked up his cards again and smiled. Your people live for thousands of years. You have time to be careful, time to plan, time to hold back your feelings and calculate every move. But humans, we burn bright and fast. We love deeply. We hate fiercely. We forgive quickly because we do not have years to waste on anger. Vila considered this. In her long life, she had never thought about death much. It was so far away, so distant. She had centuries ahead of her, but might have 50 years left if he was lucky, maybe less. And he was spending those precious years helping her. That is beautiful, she said quietly, and terribly sad. Maybe, won another hand and collected his metal chips. But I would rather live 80 years with a full heart than 1,000 years with an empty one. That night Vila lay awake in the small bed had given her. He slept on the floor nearby, using a folded jacket as a pillow. He had refused to let her take the floor, even when she insisted. She watched him sleep, this strange human who had turned her understanding of the universe upside down. His face was peaceful in rest. The scars on his hands caught the dim light. Vila thought about her own people. They had built an empire that stretched across the stars. They had conquered worlds. They had created wonders that lasted forever. But somewhere along the way they had lost something important. They had become cold, calculating. They had forgotten how to simply be kind. Maybe living too long did that to a species. Maybe having all the time in the universe made you forget how precious each moment was. But humans remembered. They had no choice but to remember. Made a sound in his sleep and turned over. Vila found herself smiling. She did not know when she had started caring about this man. It had happened slowly, like sunrise. One moment it was dark, and then suddenly there was light. She closed her eyes and felt something warm in her chest. It was a strange feeling, new and frightening. She had never felt this way about anyone before. Perhaps this was what humans called connection. Perhaps this was what it meant to truly care about another person, not because they were useful, not because they had power, but simply because they existed and made the universe better by being in it. The flew on through the stars, carrying its 2 passengers closer to danger with every passing hour. But in that small ship, in that quiet darkness, something was growing between them. Not love, not yet. But the beginning of it, the first small seed of something that might one day bloom into more. And for both of them, that was enough. They were 3 days from the border when the ships appeared. Saw them first on the scanner, 3 vessels moving fast coming directly toward the. His heart went cold when he saw their shape, long and silver, like knives cutting through space. Warships. Vila, he shouted, come here now. She was at his side in seconds, her violet eyes wide with confusion. When she saw the scanner, her face went pale. They found us, she whispered, but how? I told no one we were coming. His hands flew across the console trying to change course, but it was too late. The warships were faster than his old vessel. They would catch thee in minutes. Maybe they are here to rescue you, said, though he did not believe it. Something about this felt wrong. Rescue ships would have sent a message first. They would have asked questions. These ships came in silence like hunters approaching prey. The console beeped. Someone was trying to communicate. Opened the channel and a face appeared on the screen. The male was older than Vila, with sharp features and cold silver eyes. He wore military armor decorated with symbols of rank. His expression was as hard as stone. Vila gasped beside, Commander. Princess Vila. The commander's voice was smooth as ice. I am pleased to see you survived. We have been searching for you since the attack. Commander, what is happening? My ship was destroyed. My guards were killed. Someone tried to murder me. Yes, his lips curved into something that was almost a smile. I know. In that moment, understood everything. He reached for the console, trying to cut the communication, but spoke faster. Do not attempt to run, human. My ships will destroy you before you can jump. You will both come aboard my vessel for questioning. The channel closed. Outside the window, one of the warships moved closer. A docking arm extended toward the like a mechanical claw. It was him, Vila said. Her voice shook with shock and anger. He is the traitor. He arranged the attack on my ship. Why? Demanded, even as he searched desperately for options. His weapons were useless against warships. His engines were too slow to escape. He was trapped like a mouse in a cage. I do not know. Tears formed in Vila's eyes. He has served my mother for centuries. She trusts him completely. He is like family to us. The docking arm connected to the with a loud clang. Could hear soldiers moving in the connecting tunnel. They had minutes before armed flooded his ship. Listen to me, said quickly. He grabbed Vila's shoulders and looked into her eyes. When they come in, do not fight. Do not resist. We need to stay alive long enough to find a way out. There is no way out. Vila's voice broke. Has one, he will kill us both and my mother will never know the truth. We are not dead yet. The door burst open. Soldiers poured into their weapons pointed at Vila. Behind them walked Commander, tall and proud, looking around the human ship with disgust on his face. How the mighty have fallen, he said, staring at Vila. The princess of the empire, hiding in this garbage vessel with a human pet. Stepped forward, placing himself between Vila. Why are you doing this? What did she ever do to you? Laughed. It was an ugly sound. The human speaks. How amusing. Do you think you matter here, creature? You are nothing. A bug that crawled into something too big for it to understand. Answer his question, Vila demanded. She stood straight now, her fear replaced by royal anger. You have served my mother for 300 years. She gave you everything. Why would you betray her? Smile faded. Something dark moved behind his eyes. Your mother is a fool. She has led our empire into weakness. She talks of peace with lesser species. She speaks of trade and cooperation. The empire should rule this galaxy, not share it. He walked closer until he was standing right in front of. There are many who feel as I do, important people, powerful people. We have waited long enough. It is time for change. So you killed my guards, Vila said. You tried to kill me for politics. You understand nothing, child. Grabbed by the collar and threw him aside like a toy. Hit the wall hard and fell to the ground, pain exploding through his shoulder. Your death will start a war. When the galaxy learns that humans killed the beloved princess, the people will demand blood. Your mother will have no choice but to attack, and in the chaos of war, leadership will change. Vila understood now. The horror showed on her face. You will frame humans for my murder. You will use my death to take my mother's throne. Smart girl. Perhaps you should have paid more attention to politics when you had the chance. Raised his weapon, pointing it directly at Vila's heart. I will make it quick. You deserve that much at least. Everything happened in seconds. Pushed himself up from the floor. Pain screamed through his body, but he ignored it. He saw his finger tightening on the trigger. He saw Vila's face, brave even in the face of death. He moved without thinking. Threw himself between them just as fired. The plasma shot hit him in the shoulder, burning through flesh and bone. He screamed, but he did not stop moving. His hand found the emergency panel on the wall. His fingers punched in the code he knew by heart. Every ship had emergency systems, ways to survive when everything else failed. The had one that had never used before. He had always hoped he would never need it. Explosive decompression. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. The cargo bay doors flew open, and the vacuum of space rushed in like a hungry monster. Soldiers flew backward, pulled by the terrible force. Their screams disappeared into the silence of space as they were sucked into the cold darkness. Grabbed a support beam, holding on with desperate strength, but his grip was slipping. Grabbed Vila with his good arm and held onto the pilot console with everything he had. The wind of escaping air tore at them both, trying to pull them into death. Then hit the button to seal the bay doors. They slammed shut with a final crash. The wind stopped. The ship went quiet. Was gone, so were his soldiers. Nothing remained but empty space where they had stood. Collapsed to the floor, his shoulder burning with unimaginable pain. Blood soaked his shirt. His vision was going dark around the edges. Vila fell beside him, her hands pressing against his wound. "Why?" she cried. "Why did you do that? You almost died." Looked up at her through fatting eyes. Her beautiful silver face was blurred now, like a dream he was slowly forgetting. "I said I would get you home," he whispered. "I keep my promises." Then the darkness took him, and he knew nothing more. But he did not die. Because somewhere in that endless black between stars, a princess who had never cried for anyone held a dying human in her arms and refused to let him go. And sometimes that is enough to keep death waiting. The nebula was beautiful. Purple and gold clouds of gas stretched across the darkness, glowing with the light of distant stars. It was like flying through a painting, Vila thought, like swimming in colored light. But she could not enjoy it, not now, not while lay dying beside her. They floated in the heart of the nebula, hidden from any ships that might be searching for them. The gas clouds blocked scanners and confused sensors. It was the only safe place Vila could find after dragging to the pilot's seat and guessing at the controls. Now she sat on the floor of the medical bay, watching the human sleep. His breathing was shallow and weak. His face was pale, covered in sweat. The wound on his shoulder was wrapped in bandages, but she could see the blood seeping through. He was dying, and there was nothing she could do about it. Medicine could save him easily. One injection, a few hours in a healing chamber, and he would be healthy again. But they had no medicine. They had only human supplies, basic things meant for small injuries, nothing that could fix the damage caused by a plasma weapon. Vila worked anyway. She changed his bandages every few hours. She gave him water when he woke enough to swallow. She held his hand and talked to him, hoping her voice would keep him connected to life. On the second day, the fever began. Skin became hot to the touch. He shook and trembled, lost in nightmares she could not see. Sometimes he spoke, calling out names she did not know. Sometimes he wept, tears rolling down his cheeks while he slept. He mumbled on the second night, "I am sorry, I am so sorry." Vila held his hand. She did not know who was, but she could hear the pain in that name. The guilt, the love lost long ago. "I should have been there," whispered. His eyes were open, but he did not see Vila. He saw something else, some memory playing behind his eyes. "I should have saved you. Why did I leave? Why did I go?" "Hush," Vila said softly. She wiped the sweat from his forehead with a cloth. "You are safe now. Rest." The mine was dark. His voice was small, like a child's. She called for help. I heard her calling, but I was too far away. I could not reach her in time. Tears formed in Vila's eyes. She understood now. Was not a friend, was family. Someone had loved and lost. Someone he still blamed himself for not saving. "It was not your fault," she whispered, though she did not know if this was true. "You could not have known. You tried your best." His hand gripped hers weakly. "I wanted to die after that. For a long time I wanted to die, but I could not even do that right. I just kept living, kept floating through space, waiting for something that never came." Vila leaned down and pressed her forehead against his burning skin. "You found something now. You found me, and I need you to live. Please, please do not leave me alone." She did not know if he heard her. He fell back into fevered dreams, muttering words she could not understand. But his hand held onto hers, and that gave her hope. The third day was the worst. Stopped moving, stopped speaking. His breathing became so slow that sometimes Vila pressed her ear to his chest just to make sure his heart was still beating. The wound on his shoulder had turned dark around the edges. Infection was spreading through his body. Vila knew she should prepare for his death. That was the way. When someone was beyond saving, you accepted it. You moved forward. You did not waste time on grief. But she could not accept this. She would not. She tore the medical bay apart, searching for anything that might help. She found bottles of human medicine she could not read. She found tools she did not understand. Finally, in a dusty corner, she found a small kit marked with a red symbol. Emergency supplies, last chance supplies. Inside were things Vila recognized: antibiotics, painkillers, a strange device that looked like it could restart a heart. Human medicine was primitive compared to technology, but it was something. She injected with everything she could find that seemed helpful. She followed the pictures on the packages, hoping she was doing it right. She worked through the night, refusing to sleep, refusing to stop. By morning of the fourth day, his fever broke. His eyes opened slowly. They were clear now, no longer clouded by sickness. He looked around the medical bay, confused, then saw Vila sitting beside him. "You stayed," he whispered. His voice was rough and dry. Vila laughed through her tears. She had not realized she was crying until that moment. "You taught me to." Tried to smile, but it turned into a cough. Vila gave him water, holding the cup to his lips like he was a child. "How long?" he asked after drinking. 4 days, you almost died. Many times you almost died." Closed his eyes. "Gone, your emergency system worked. He and his soldiers were pulled into space." "Good." His hand found hers again. "Are you hurt?" Vila shook her head in amazement. This man, who had just returned from the edge of death, was asking about her safety first. It was so human, so wonderfully, impossibly human. "I am fine, you saved me, again." Opened his eyes and looked at her. There was something different in his gaze now, something softer. "I told you I would get you home. You almost died for that promise, a promise to someone you barely know, a promise that no one would blame you for breaking." Vila squeezed his hand. "Why? Why do humans do this?" Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. "Because some things are worth dying for. Maybe I could not save my sister. Maybe I have failed at many things in my life, but I could save you. I could do this one good thing, and if I died doing it, at least I would die knowing I tried." He smiled weakly. "Besides, you are not someone I barely know, not anymore." Vila felt warmth spread through her chest. It was that strange feeling again, the one she had discovered on the quiet nights of their journey, but it was stronger now, more certain. She did not have words for what she felt. Her people had no language for this kind of emotion. They had words for duty, honor, loyalty, power, but not this. Not this overwhelming need to protect someone, to stay beside them, to share their pain and their joy. Maybe humans had a word for it. She would ask later when he was stronger. For now, she simply held his hand and watched him sleep peacefully for the first time in days. Outside the window, the nebula glowed with golden light. The floated gently in its colorful clouds, hidden and safe. And somewhere in the distance, the waited. They were not there yet. The journey was not over, but they had survived the worst of it together. And Vila knew with complete certainty that whatever came next, she would face it with this human by her side. Not because she needed his protection, but because she could not imagine facing anything without him. The filled the window like a giant eye watching them. It was a planet of oceans and light. Blue water covered most of its surface, broken only by silver cities that floated on the waves. From space, it looked like a jewel, beautiful and cold. Stared at it from the pilot's seat, his shoulder still wrapped in bandages. He had never seen anything so magnificent in his life, and he had never been so terrified. "They will not shoot us," Vila said from beside him. "I have sent my identification codes. They know their princess is aboard." "That does not mean they will be happy to see me." Vila touched his arm gently. "I will not let them hurt you, I promise." Wanted to believe her, But promises from a princess did not mean much when you were a human flying into the heart of an empire that saw your kind as insects. The warships appeared within minutes, 12 of them, surrounding the like wolves circling a wounded animal. Their weapons were not powered up, but could feel them ready to fire at any moment. A voice crackled through the communication system. It was cold and formal, speaking in the language. Vila answered in the same tongue, her voice taking on a royal tone that had never heard before. She sounded like a different person, a princess giving orders. The warships did not fire. Instead, they formed an escort around thee and led it toward the planet below. Landing on the was like landing in a dream. The docking platform was made of crystal and silver metal. Towers rose around it, tall and delicate, reaching toward the pale sky. Everything was clean. Everything was perfect. It made the look like a dirty rock sitting in the middle of paradise. Soldiers waited at the platform. Hundreds of them, standing in perfect lines, their armor shining in the soft light. Behind them stood figures in flowing robes, politicians and nobles who had come to see their princess return from the dead. The moment stepped off the ship, hands grabbed him. "No," Vila screamed, "leave him alone." But no one listened. The soldiers pushed to his knees and locked chains around his wrists. A noble stepped forward, his silver face twisted with disgust. "This human kidnapped the princess. He will face justice for his crimes." "He did not kidnap me," Vila fought against the guards holding her back. "He saved my life, let him go." The princess is clearly confused from her experience. The noble waved his hand dismissively. "Take the human to the cells. The queen will decide his fate." They dragged away. He did not resist. What would be the point? He was one human against an empire. His only hope now was that Vila could make someone believe the truth. The cell was surprisingly comfortable. It had a soft bed, clean water, and walls that glowed with gentle light. But it was still a prison. The door was locked. There was no window. Sat on the bed and wondered if he would ever see the stars again. Hours passed, maybe days. He could not tell. No one came to speak with him. No one brought food. He was forgotten, a small problem waiting to be dealt with. Then the door opened, and guards entered. They led him through long hallways of marble and gold, stopped to stare as he passed, their violet eyes full of curiosity and hatred, kept his head high. If he was going to die, he would die with dignity. The throne room was enormous. Its ceiling disappeared into shadow far above. Columns of crystal lined the walls, catching light and splitting it into rainbows. At the far end, on a throne carved from a single blue diamond, sat Queen Myra. She was beautiful and terrible. Her silver skin seemed to glow from within. Her white hair flowed down her shoulders like water. Her eyes, violet like her daughter's but much colder, watched approach with no emotion at all. Around the throne stood advisors and nobles. Among them, recognized faces full of anger and hatred. These were the people who thought humans were lower than animals. These were the people who wanted him dead. The guards pushed to his knees before the throne. He did not look down. He met the queen's gaze directly, like an equal. Something flickered in her eyes, surprise perhaps, or interest. Humans did not usually show such boldness in her presence. "So this is the creature who stole my daughter," Queen Myra said. Her voice was like music if music could cut. "Your Majesty," one of the advisors stepped forward. "This human clearly abducted the princess and held her prisoner. We should execute him immediately and send his body back to the human territories as a warning." "A warning of what?" spoke before he could stop himself. "A warning that saving your princess is a crime." Silence fell over the court. No one spoke to the queen that way. The advisor who had spoken turned purple with anger. "You dare to speak to the queen without permission." He raised his hand as if to strike. "Stop." The voice was clear and strong. Everyone turned to see Princess Vila walking into the throne room. She wore royal clothing now, silver and blue, with her white hair arranged in complex patterns. She looked like a true princess, powerful and proud. But her eyes, when they found, were soft with concern. "Mother," Vila walked past the advisors and stood beside, placing her hand on his shoulder. "This man is innocent. He is not my kidnapper. He is my rescuer." The queen leaned forward slightly. "Explain." And Vila did. She told the whole story, the attack on her ship, finding herself trapped and dying, coming to save her even though he had every reason to leave her behind, the journey across dangerous space, Commander's betrayal, the truth about the conspiracy to start a war and take the throne. As she spoke, the court grew quiet. The anger on the faces around them changed to shock, then to fear. If what Vila said was true, there were traitors among them. People they trusted were enemies. When Vila finished, she looked directly at her mother. "This human owed me nothing. His people have received only coldness from us. He had no reason to help me and every reason to let me die. But he risked everything to bring me home. He almost died protecting me." She reached down and removed the chains from his wrists herself. The metal fell to the floor with a loud clang. "This man showed me more honor than my own blood," Vila declared. Her voice rang through the silent chamber. "If this is what humanity is, then perhaps it is we who are primitive." The queen said nothing for a long moment. Her violet eyes moved from her daughter to and back again. She was reading them, realized, searching for lies. Finally she stood. The entire court held its breath. "Arrest the supporters of Commander," she commanded. "All of them. They will answer for their treason." Guards moved immediately. Shouts of protest rose from several nobles as they were seized. In minutes, the conspiracy was broken, its members dragged away in chains. Then the queen turned her gaze back to. She walked down the steps from her throne until she stood directly in front of him. This close, she seemed even more powerful, like a star compressed into human form. "Human," she said quietly, "what is your name?" "Park, Your Majesty." "Park," she repeated it slowly, as if tasting the strange human sounds. "You have done something that no one in 1,000 years has done. You have surprised me." She reached out and touched his wounded shoulder, so gently he barely felt it. "And you have given me back something I thought I had lost forever." She looked at Vila with an expression had not expected. Love. Pure, simple love. For a moment, the cold queen was just a mother who had almost lost her child. "You will be rewarded," the queen told. "Ask for anything in my power to give, and it is yours." Looked at Vila. She smiled at him, tears in her violet eyes. Then he looked back at the queen and bowed his head. "I have only one request, Your Majesty." The queen's private chamber was nothing like the throne room. It was small and warm, filled with soft light and comfortable furniture. Paintings covered the walls, images of family and memories from centuries past. There was a window that looked out over the Silver City and the endless blue ocean beyond. This was not a room for royalty. This was a room for a person. Queen Myra sat across from, watching him with those ancient violet eyes. Without her crown and formal robes, she looked more like Vila, more real, more human, if that word could ever describe someone like her. "You asked for fuel and supplies," she said. "Nothing more, just what you need to continue your journey." Nodded. His shoulder was healed now, fixed by medicine in a matter of hours. The wound that had almost killed him was nothing but a faint scar. "It is all I need, Your Majesty." You could have asked for anything, wealth beyond your dreams, a planet of your own, technology that would make you the most powerful human in the galaxy. The queen tilted her head, studying him. "Why did you not?" Thought about the question. He could explain that he did not want power or wealth. He could talk about how such things corrupted people, made them cold and cruel. But those were not the true reasons. "Because that is not why I helped her," he said finally. "I did not save Vila expecting a reward. I saved her because it was the right thing to do. Accepting riches for that would make it feel wrong, like I was selling something that should not have a price. The queen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. I have ruled this empire for 600 years. In that time, I have met thousands of people. Politicians, generals, diplomats, kings, and queens from across the galaxy. All of them wanted something from me. All of them had a price, a deal they hoped to make. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at her world. But you, Park, you want nothing. You expect nothing. And that makes you the most dangerous person I have ever met. Frowned dangerous. To our way of thinking, yes. The queen turned back to face him. We have built our society on exchange, power for loyalty, protection for obedience. We measure everything in what can be gained or lost. But you act without calculation. You give without expecting return. This is troubling. I am sorry, said, though he was not sure what he was apologizing for. The queen smiled. It changed her entire face, making her look younger, almost warm. Do not be sorry. You have shown me something I had forgotten. She walked to a small table and picked up an object. When she turned back, saw that she was holding a crystal sphere that glowed with inner light. For centuries, my people have dismissed humans. We believed you were too weak, too brief, too primitive to matter. We looked at your short lives and saw tragedy. We looked at your fragile bodies and saw failure. She held out the crystal too. But perhaps we were looking at the wrong things. Took the sphere carefully. It was warm in his hands, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. What is this? He asked. A message from me to the leaders of your people. The queen's eyes met his. An invitation to talk, to begin something new between our species. Stared at her, unable to believe what he was hearing. You want peace with humanity. I want understanding. My daughter told me what you taught her on your journey. How humans live knowing death is always close. How that knowledge makes you treasure each moment, each connection. How your weakness has made you strong in ways we never considered. The queen placed her hand over the glowing sphere. We have lived so long that we have forgotten how to truly live. Perhaps your people can remind us. Perhaps together we can build something better than either of us could alone. Looked down at the crystal in his hands. Inside that small sphere was something more valuable than any treasure. A chance for peace. A future where humans could work together instead of ignoring each other. He had come to this planet hopping only to return a lost princess to her home. He was leaving with the beginning of something that might change the galaxy. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said. The words felt too small for the moment. Thank you, Park, for reminding me what it means to care without condition. The docking bay was quiet when arrived. The sat waiting, still old and ugly, but cleaned and repaired. Engineers had fixed problems did not even know existed. They had filled his cargo hold with supplies that would last for months. And standing beside the ship waiting for him was Vila. She wore simple clothing now, no longer dressed like a princess. Her white hair was loose around her shoulders. Her violet eyes shimmered with emotions she was trying to control. So you are leaving, she said as approached. I have stars to explore, people to meet, things to see, stopped in front of her close enough to touch. I cannot stay in one place, it is not who I am. I know, Vila smiled sadly. You are like the wind, you must keep moving or you will die. Wanted to say something, wanted to tell her how much these weeks had meant to him, how she had shown him that life could still surprise him, still bring light into his darkness, but words had never been his strength. Vila reached into her pocket and pulled out a small crystal. It was clear as water, with a faint blue glow at its center. A communication crystal, she explained, pressing it into his palm. It will connect you to me anywhere in the galaxy anytime you wish, if you need help, or, she paused, her silver cheeks darkening slightly, or if you simply wish to talk. Looked at the crystal, then at her. You want to stay in touch with a dirty human scavenger. I want to stay in touch with my friend. Vila's voice was firm, the best friend I have ever had. Something broke inside, not in a painful way, but like ice melting after a long winter. He felt tears form in his eyes, and for once, he did not try to hide them. He pulled Vila into a hug. She stiffened for a moment, surprised. Then she relaxed and wrapped her arms around him. "Thank you," whispered into her hair, "for believing in me, for staying with me when I was dying, for showing me that I still have something to offer this universe." "Thank you for saving me," Vila whispered back. "In every way a person can be saved." They held each other for a long time. Neither wanted to let go. Finally stepped back. He wiped his eyes and smiled. "I should go, before I change my mind and stay here forever." "Would that be so bad?" Vila asked. Looked at her. For a moment he imagined it, staying on this beautiful world, building a life beside someone who understood him, finding peace at last. But the stars were calling. They always would. "Maybe someday," he said, "when I am old and tired, when I have seen everything I need to see, I will come back. I will be waiting." Vila's smile was bright despite her tears. "Even if it takes 100 years, I will be waiting." Climbed into and sat in the pilot's seat. Through the window, he could see Vila standing alone on the platform, her silver skin glowing in the pale light. He started the engine. The ship rose slowly, gracefully, leaving the crystal platform behind. As the flew up through the atmosphere, watched the grow smaller below him. The silver cities, the blue oceans, the world that had changed everything. Historians would later write about this day. They would call it the beginning of the human alliance. They would study the treaties and trade agreements that followed. They would analyze the political changes that transformed both species. But they would never fully understand what truly happened. They would not know about a young human man who helped a stranger because it was right. They would not know about a princess who learned that strength comes from kindness. They would not know about the love that grew between two people from different worlds. Some things are too small for history books, too personal, too human. They jumped into faster-than-light travel. The stars blurred around like streaks of light. In his pocket, the communication crystal pulsed gently, a connection that stretched across the darkness, a promise kept. Park smiled, the first real smile he had worn in years. The universe was vast and cold and dangerous, but somewhere out there, someone was waiting for him, someone who knew his name and his story and his heart. And that made all the difference. The stars did not seem quite so cold anymore. They looked like hope.